All right, once again, Immediate Past District 33 Director Joseph Skoda in the house. I'm right now live in Orcutt, California, not too far from Santa Barbara, not too far from Pismo Beach. We're getting ready for a great Hall of Fame. It's going to be in Morrow Bay in a couple weeks. I want to thank you for joining our second series called Want More Out of Toastmasters. A lot of us joined Toastmasters after a few months of getting different educational levels and getting more confidence in our speaking ability in front of other people. We often think that's it, the club level, that's it. And sometimes it is for some people. If you worked your way up through VP membership or VP or president and you had a good year, yes, that was great. But we have a panelist of people today that will tell you, no, it really gets better when you step it up in leadership. If I never stepped up into leadership, I probably would not have my own nonprofit today. I probably would not be a paid speaker today, as well as so many other great things that happened to me while I worked my way up through leadership. But I had to take the challenge on. And so this year, we're trying to encourage people to be more confident, say, yes, pick me. I'm ready for the next level, the next step to achieve different goals in my life and prepare you in advance. So it's a win-win for everyone. So we all have a little bit of fun there. You know, this is a new reality we live in right now. We'll be Zoom in or virtual reality hybrid for who knows how many more months or years to come. But as Toastmasters, we take that on and we're leading the way for other corporations to learn how to train and lead their own managers and trainers. So this is going to be fun. I appreciate all you being here. Later on, we're going to ask for some questions and answers. Feel free to put in the chat box or maybe raise your hand and we'll do it that way. We'll figure that out as time goes on. Once again, I'm Joseph Skoda, retired Air Force. Very proud to be a Toastmaster, let alone a district leader. But right now, I want to hand it over to Distinguished Toastmaster, Division D Director, Vanessa Phelps.
Thank you very much, Joseph, and thank you all for the opportunity to be a part of your leadership series. I am Vanessa Phelps, and I will be your moderator actually for this evening. I will also be the person who starts the conversation, and I want to share my unique leadership experience. As a leader in Toastmasters, I'm honored to kind of share this journey that I've been on. I am currently the District 33 Division D Director, and I have held past leadership roles such as Administrative Manager. I've been the President of one club, and that club was President's Distinguished. I have also been and held every officer position that there is in the club, from Sergeant at Arms to President. I never really wanted a leadership role in Toastmasters or in anything, and it just kind of happened. In Toastmasters, I didn't even want a speaking role, but that's kind of where I ended up. And so here I am today. I remember when I was a captain in the United States Air Force. That's another leadership role that was thrust up on me. And I was a part of this elite nursing team. We were called Critical Care Air Transport, and we actually saved lives. That was our job, and what a job it was. Until one day, the administrative doctor, he wasn't an actual medical doctor, he was an administrative doctor, told me, we're offering you this unique responsibility to go work with a 3-star general. And my response was, well, who's sick over there where the 3-star general works? And he said, you're going to be working in protocol and nobody's sick over there. This is a unique leadership opportunity. So go over there and don't embarrass us. So being the young captain that I was at the time, I said, I'm not going over there. And the doctor, being a full bird colonel, said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. And so when I ended up over there the next day, and I saluted smartly to the 3-star general, he took one look at my face and he said, do you know what an important job you have? And I, being the flippant, smart, but captain that I was like, yeah, it's being a nurse and saving lives. And he said, no, listen very carefully. Your job is to be the face of this installation. And the installation was Nellis Air Force Base. It's one of the ranking bases in the whole United States Air Force. It is home of the Thunderbirds, the unique aerial flying crew. And he said, you're going to be the face of the base, and it better be a smiling face. And that was my first learning lesson in leadership. And I found out how important it was to be the person that greets people and introduces them to your base or your place or your home. What I found out about leadership from that 3-star general who went on to become the Secretary of the Air Force, what he taught me is leadership is not about you at all. It's about others. It's about the ability to make others trust in your leadership and that they can see that they can succeed by actually emulating what you do. Leadership is about being accountable. It's about being responsible, and it's about being you and motivating others. Guess what doesn't happen in Toastmasters? What doesn't happen in Toastmasters is money. You don't get paid in Toastmasters. So in the Air Force, I could always pull rank as a captain. Anybody that was beneath me, they had to kind of give me my just due. That meant salute and respect me and follow my orders. In Toastmasters, you don't actually have a boss and you don't get paid. So you have to lead by your personality and by your accountability and by your responsibility and by your charisma and magnetism in order to get others to actually do what you want them to do. You are leading people who aren't paid, and they're giving you not only their services, but their time. Wow. That was an eye-opener for me when it comes to leadership in and out of Toastmasters. There are no bosses in Toastmasters. You are the boss of you. My job as a leader in and out of Toastmasters, but especially in Toastmasters, is to make it as easy as possible for others to succeed. And we have this old saying in the military, not just the Air Force, but the military. I belong to the Space Force now. The saying is the same. You empower others and you make it easy for them to succeed. You will not have to worry about the mission succeeding. Take care of your people and they will take care of you and the mission. It's just that simple. Allow others to succeed, make it possible for them to succeed. And leadership is not about you. It's about how to motivate others. It's about how to create a climate of accountability and responsibility. I was asked to be a mentor lately, and I froze because I knew it meant I was going to have to clean up my act, because sometimes off camera, I'm not the so-called leader that you see here today in front of you. And like a good Toastmaster does, I simply said yes. So now I will be mentoring somebody, and I am thankful for that opportunity as well, because mentoring is a great opportunity and a compliment. And it's a stepping stone for me to test my leadership abilities. I just said yes. I asked you to say yes, because this leadership panel and whole series is about choosing leaders to come behind you. We are building a pipeline of leaders to take our places. And I'd rather see one that I had something to do with than not. And that's what I bring with you today. Other than what I have said, I will also be monitoring the chat box and forwarding any questions that anybody else has to ask of you, our all-star leadership panel. Thank you very much. That said, our panel, I'd like for them to begin by introducing themselves, give a brief bio, a little bit of history of your life in and outside of Toastmasters. And then I'd like to start off the leadership panel with, tell me how Toastmasters has influenced your careers, your relationships, and your life. So for our panel members, brief bio, and then answer the question. How has Toastmasters influenced your career, your relationships, and in general, your life? I don't know why I have to start with you, Greg. And I'm going to say this because you always lead the way and you make it easier for others to follow, because you kind of show them what to do. So if you don't mind, let's hear from you first, panel member Greg Morrow, DTM.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for the high compliment you gave me. Many of you have heard my story in one way or another. Some of you haven't. I would love to say that I joined Toastmasters because I needed to get a promotion in my job. I wanted to be a professional speaker. I wanted to become a high-powered executive. None of those were the initial reason that I joined 6 years ago. I was going through a divorce, visited a cousin in Twin Falls, Idaho that I had not seen at that time in more than a dozen years. First day I'm there, she says, Greg, would you like to go to my Toastmasters meeting later this morning at a Golden Corral, my treat? And I said, well, I've heard of Toastmasters. It's some speaking organization, and I've never been to Golden Corral. I'm down for that. Free food, fine. I went and participated in table topics, and I won. And I loved it so much that when I got home to Visalia, where I was living at the time, I Googled and found Visalia Toastmasters. So I began going and enjoyed the people that were there. Monica Story and Adam Franks and several other people that have really held one, Cindy Bean, for example, that have been really a part of District 33 and especially Division G. How it's affected my career is in 6 months after I joined Toastmasters, I received the best job evaluation ever. I went to my instructional coach right afterwards, and she goes, how did your evaluation go? I go, it was great. I loved it. It was the best one I've ever had in my career. And the first words out of her mouth were, quote, it's that speaking club you go to. So 6 months out of the gate, I realized that this club that I was attending on Tuesday nights, helping me in public speaking, was actually helping me to become a better educator. In fact, in that evaluation, my principal at the time said, I think you should be an administrator. Now, I had been an educator since the late 90s. I had never been told to be an administrator. Never once had the suggestion ever come up. But after joining Toastmasters, I was tabbed as somebody who might be a potential administrator. Long story short, it's been 6 years. I now am a third grade teacher at a charter school in Fresno, where I also serve as an induction coach to 3 teachers, 2 second year and 1 first year teacher. So even though I am a classroom teacher, I also am a teacher leader and help mentor not only the 3 teachers that I am directly responsible for in the county induction program, but also with my coworkers. Ultimately, I want to go back to grad school next year, get my master's in curriculum and instruction, and become a full-time induction coach or instructional coach at a school. I learned through Toastmasters that I have a passion for working with adult learners. As far as relationships go, it's taught me to be a better listener because I've always spoken a lot. I'm half Sicilian. I come from a Sicilian household. And we Sicilians, if you know Sicilians, we talk and talk and talk. Without Toastmasters, I sincerely believe that I would not be married to my wonderful wife, Sherry, today, because I wouldn't be the person that she needed. But Toastmasters helped me to not only be a better speaker, but to disseminate when I should speak and when I should listen. And that is a continual journey for me. As far as life, it has given me so much hope, ability to express myself, friendships that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And no matter where life takes me, I see myself as a lifer in Toastmasters and being involved in Toastmasters in one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg, for that wonderful introduction. I too am a lifer. I love your sayings. I wrote things down. I want the ability to express myself better. I want to know when to shut up, although you didn't say it that way. I want to know when to speak and when to listen more. So thank you so much. Next, let's have Debbie. Please, can you introduce yourself and as well as explain a little bit about Toastmasters, what it's done for you as far as your career, relationships, and in general, just your life. Debbie?
Thank you, Vanessa. My name is Debbie Baker, and I received my Distinguished Toastmaster Award in 2014. Kathy Schote presented it to me at conference. And that year I started my journey as a district leader. And I served 2 years instead of 3. I was never the club growth director because we had 2 openings on our district team at that time that year. And so I stepped right up into the program quality director's position. And I never looked back. I joined Toastmasters because I was not exuding an adequate amount of confidence on my job. I'm an auditor, a CPA, and I needed to be able to argue with people. And I had a difficult time presenting my point and the facts, and even if it were uncomfortable, and holding my ground. And so my boss told me that although you have graduated from college with all the accolades of an accountant and have done so well, I was a straight A student in college. I received my CPA degree, seemed very easily to other people, although it was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever encountered. I did get my CPA license rather quickly and began working, and it was the confidence issue that held me back. It held me back from being promoted. It held me back from really being able to articulate my job. And so someone came along beside me and said, "Hey, Debbie, let's go to Dale Carnegie School." And I hated it. They wanted you to stand up on top of a chair and bang your chest like you were in the jungle. And what are you, a lion or an owl? Or I thought, this is ridiculous. Why do I need to do this? I can't. I don't want to. And so there must be an easier way. And then someone said, there is. Let's try Toastmasters. And she came along beside me, took me to a meeting, and I joined Toastmasters after about a year more of coaching. So I'd love to tell you I joined right away and the sky was the limit and I moved right on, and that's not true. It took me a couple of years to really engage, but once I did, I began to speak and then fell in love with the leadership track. At that time, it wasn't Pathways as the education program, it was the past education program that we had, and there were two tracks, one for speaking and one for leadership. And I just fell in love with leadership and club building. And once I began to involve myself and move up and then step up into district leadership, the confidence came. And I became a manager at work. And the skills that I learned just to evaluate a speech in my Toastmasters club really helped me to begin to develop younger accountants that were right out of college and have difficult conversations with young people, like why you should not wear flip-flops to work when you're in a professional environment. And now you need not to dress with a lace tunic, but maybe a jacket instead. And those type of difficult conversations that you need to have as a manager because you care about someone and you want them to develop. And it helped me to do that. It helped me to embrace people and work with them, come along beside them. And my career then began to grow. And then as that happened, then relationships at work began to grow because I began to reach out and was able to mentor and develop other people and have them start their Toastmaster journey or their accountant journey. But I was mentoring on two fronts, in Toastmasters, and I was mentoring on the job always. And then I was raising 3 boys. And my Toastmasters career helped me to be able to be a more effective parent, I think. More understanding, more nurturing, more able to see from their perspective and to be able to work with them and help them develop instead of make them into a clone, if you will, because you all know teenagers don't clone really well. They have this whole idea about what life should be and they're on their way. And you can coach them and you can come along beside them, but you can't push them in a direction they don't want to go. So it was very helpful at that time for me to gain these type of skills. And then my life in general today, I'm serving as a controller for a firm in private accounting. And I am teaching part-time at the community college and state college. I teach accounting classes. I would have never had the confidence to reach out and do that had it have not been for Toastmasters. And I'm thankful for my Toastmasters leadership experience. I'm thankful for the opportunity that I've had to mentor many of you, even on this phone call. And my time as a leader, I learned so much about myself. It was so worthwhile of an experience to jump in and do this leadership experience in district leadership. I'm not going to tell you it was easy, because anybody who's been there and completed district leadership knows it's not easy, especially at that time. Our district contained all of Las Vegas and all of northern through Southern California and the Central Valley. It was a huge district by many standards. It has now been divided into 2 districts. And just to be on the team where we were planning for that and building for that and mentoring the teams on both sides to be able to form 2 districts, all of those things were so exciting to me as part of district leadership. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity to have gone through that and to be able to be asked to be here to share that with you this evening. So thank you, Vanessa, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Wow, it's been a while since I've seen you on Zoom or even in person, much longer than that. But I love your presence. It's always positive. I love what you ended with. Leadership is about mentoring. Yes, it is. Leadership is about having the lack of confidence in going forward anyway. And leadership is about not looking back. Those are all things that you said. Like I said, I'm writing things down. I'm taking notes. You fell in love with leadership. Not quite there yet, but thank you very much. Our next panel member, Laquita, my dear friend. Can we hear your story?
Absolutely. Hello, Toastmaster Vanessa, and all of you wonderful Toastmaster members and guests. Thank you for having me as one of your panelists. I am so honored. Talk about careers. Oh my goodness. When I was in college, I heard about Toastmasters, and I thought I needed it immediately because I knew I was going into a field that required me to get up in front of people and speak. And I was scared to death because I'm a shy person. I have a stutter. But over the years in Toastmasters, both of those have been hidden very well. They never go away, but you learn to manage those things that hold you back in a group like Toastmasters in these friendly environments. So I am a supervisor for the Air Force for Information Technology Group. I work with computers all day long. So it's a perfect environment for shy people. But then they promoted me. And almost every organization I started working with after college, they promoted me to supervisor. And I always tell people that they promoted me because I was so bad at programming, programming applications and software. So they thought, oh, she'd be a good leader. And they put me in leadership positions. But definitely, I had to overcome those things that held me back. I had to overcome also my tendency to be flippant. We heard that earlier. That is one quality of mine. I had to learn how to be diplomatic instead. And that is a skill. That is a skill for someone who's very direct. Another thing I had to overcome was losing my nervousness in front of people, getting up in front of audiences and speaking. So I have briefed generals, I have briefed colonels, I have briefed my team. And in each occasion, it was nervousness, the dry throat, the losing of thoughts. The organization went out the window because I was so nervous. Toastmasters has helped me overcome that. And being a person who listens. Usually I go right into whatever I need to tell people without listening to them and knowing my audience. That's so important. As you know, Toastmasters has many tracks that allow you to learn how to listen and then speak, and then learn how to evaluate what you've heard from the other person in your presentation. Again, confidence and skills and knowing your audience, so important. So those are the things I learned in Toastmasters. And in being in my role as a supervisor in my level, which is senior leadership, it has helped me tremendously. I have grown in each position just because of Toastmasters. At Edwards Air Force Base, I make it a point to let others know about the benefits of Toastmasters. And I gear that because it's one thing to just invite people to the meeting, but it's also a point to make them want to come to your meeting. So at Edwards, we have what we call special emphasis months. And every month we have an open house in Toastmasters. And we make sure people are invited across the base to these events. And this is an opportunity for people of certain cultures to tell about their stories. And these are not Toastmasters, mind you. These are people who just work on the base. And it is so enlightening to see others share their stories. But it's also an opportunity for me and other leaders to tell the group about the benefits of Toastmasters. And we've gotten members that way. But share your gift, share your skills with others, be the example, be the model. It's what I've learned in Toastmasters. Another thing that I've learned in Toastmasters is how to step outside my box. We all create boxes for ourselves. I am not a humorous person. So stepping outside of my box, I gave a humorous speech. And I won. I was so surprised. People laughed at me. Oh, with me. But it was a speech about how to buy a cell phone, and it involved my children.
Mhm.
So it was so easy to give that humorous speech because it was hilarious to me. So you'd be surprised at how your experiences can touch others. I didn't place with that speech at the district level, but I was so warm that young people came up to me and said, "Yep, that's my mom." I can relate. And when someone can relate to your speech, it is so heartwarming. Another speech that I gave that I am so proud of that helped me grow as a person and as a leader in Toastmasters is when I told the audience about my son who's autistic. And that was how he wanted to be a normal person as opposed to being a special person. Now I came in third on that speech, yay. But the thing that I got out of that, the most that I got out of that, were there are other people who felt the same way or who were having the same experiences in their lives. And after that speech, I had a line of people in front of me asking about how I did it and advice I could give them. So what I want to share with you is Toastmasters can not only affect your life and give you hope for building your skills, but you can also affect other people's lives. Share that gift, share your stories, and you'll be surprised at how many people you can touch. My son, who's autistic, joined Toastmasters, and he gave a few speeches, and it gave him confidence. And now he's graduated from college, which was my goal, one of my first goals. And now he's working for the Air Force. You know, these things that you do in Toastmasters will help you gain confidence in yourself, gain motivation to continue to go forward, to persevere. Because at the time that I gave that speech about my son, I was at a very low point. But because of all the love and warmth from Toastmasters, that helped me get through that crisis. And a few years later, you see the result. He's doing well, and I'm doing well. So thank you again, Toastmasters, for listening. I hope that I've influenced you a bit to get out there, think outside the box, get outside your box, give those speeches, share your experiences, and you will touch other people as well. Thank you.
Wow, Laquita, thank you. Get out there and share your gift. Look across the room. There are people out there who have a story that you haven't heard. I know about those special emphasis months. Yes, everybody does have a story to tell, and they need a special emphasis on what they have to share. because other people need to hear it and what a difference it will make in their lives. You have learned diplomacy. I loved your story. Thank you for sharing. We have a panel member who is absent, but I want this room, Zoom room, to see what leaders in Toastmasters do. So wait for it. As I look across my screen, I'm going to just pick a member to come on up and join the panel. Looks like that's going to be Charles Hooper. Come on down. Let's hear your story. Chuck?
Well, thank you. I think my Toastmasters journey actually started the day Debbie Baker on the panel got a message to me that there was a club forming in Turlock that had 19 members and they need 20 to become an official club. So I joined that club, and I think that was 12 or 13 years ago. I am still a member of that club. It is the people in the club have become family. I tell a story that started when I was 16 about a situation where I was going to have to get up on a stage and speak to a high school crowd, and I panicked. And my dad saw that I panicked, and he arranged for me to go to an adult public speaking class. That led to just a slight growth every year in my ability to get on stage and say something, at least say something meaningful sometimes. But it also led in that class to an instructor that brought up a quote. And the quote was, Mark Twain said, there are two important dates in everyone's life: the day they're born and the day they find out why. And as a 16-year-old, it was like, don't have time for that. I'll figure it out later. Same thing in my 20s, busy, got a date, goodbye. In my 30s, got a kid that needs help with school, don't have time to think about it. In my 40s, in my 50s, I kept hearing this quote coming back to me. And at one point I thought, it's following me. I heard it again in my 60s and I realized it was stalking me. On my 70th birthday, I had an occasion to answer the phone at 7 o'clock in the morning, as I had for 21 straight years. 7 a.m. on my birthday, same voice. Happy birthday, old man. This time, same words, same person, one difference. Happy birthday, old man. Two things came to me right then. One, I had to adjust my will. And two, what was my second date? I wanted to figure that out. It took me about a week before I got a letter. I was searching, contacting people, and it meant nothing to me, but I got a letter from someone. Longer story, but in the letter, he said that something I said when I spoke to a group in Cambridge, Massachusetts, something I said changed his life. And that's when I realized two things: that if you have the ability to change someone's life in a positive way with your words, if Toastmasters can help you take your passion, take the things that drive you, take the things that you think you can use to make the world a better place, if Toastmasters can help you get the confidence to speak the words to make the world a better place, that's great. That became my second date when I realized what I was here for. To speak and touch one person in the back of the room, that's all it takes. But what I found along that journey, along the way, as you gain more public speaking skills, communication skills, you walk in to leadership positions. And when you're in those leadership positions, I think some of the other speakers have alluded to it, you end up learning to control your speeches a little better. You have to be a little more eloquent and controlled. Bottom line is, to be an effective leader, you start with being a communicator. I don't think you'll ever find any leader that wasn't a good communicator. So my advice to everyone is use every chance you get to speak, to learn, to be evaluated, to reach outside of Toastmasters for help. Learn to be a better speaker, a better communicator. And when the leadership opportunities are presented, whether it's just a club officer position, an area director, a division director, when those positions become available, test the waters, volunteer. You cannot fail. It's impossible to fail because the person that was there the prior year and the year before that and the year before that are probably there to help you every step of the way. And that's been my experience. I've been an area director 5 or 6 times, had 3 areas under me at one time. You get to a point where the communication skills open the door for the leadership skills. Go through that door. That's all I have to say in my ad hoc speech.
Hey, thank you so much, Charles. Vanessa had to step out, she froze, so I'm going to take it over from here. But before we get to the Q&A, we have a lot of leadership on this meeting tonight. It wouldn't be right not to introduce our current district director. So please help me welcome Clarice Cresser as she shares her story a little bit about why she got into leadership and what she's getting out of it. Clarice?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Immediate Past District Director, and it is an honor to be here. I had not planned to speak, but it's an honor. I'm going to be very brief because I know there's opportunity for Q&A. Now, I've been a Toastmaster for a little bit over 6 years. And as what Greg had mentioned, I actually joined because one of the main reasons was because I had a promotion in my job. I was used to managing a staff of 30 to 40 people, very comfortable in getting to know my team. But my promotion required me to speak to strangers, to people that I did not know, that I had to convince, because I worked for a nonprofit, I had to convince them to give and donate resources like money. And it was a 2 roles, very different. And I joined it because I was like, I'm going to be speaking to strangers to do what? So I joined. And within my first year, I got into these officer positions because somebody said, I see something in you. You would be a great VPE. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, VPE is that's number 2. That's not the president. So little did I know what that involved. But what I learned and what happened right after that was I took advantage of every leadership role, not even knowing what I was getting into, because my whole purpose of Toastmasters was to improve my communication. I did not early in my Toastmasters journey connect communication with leadership. I've served in every club officer role, more the president and VPE. And within my first year, or within less than 2 years, someone here tapped me on the shoulder, I'll give the initials of LD, who said, how would you like to be an area director? And I, from there, got hooked. From area director, I served as division director and was able to, the opportunities for the trio came up. And there, in taking those positions, what I learned were basically 3 things. One was I gained more confidence. I had very little. Stepping outside my comfort zone. I'm an introvert by nature and still am. So you put me in a room with a bunch of people I have not even spoken to, I will beeline to people I will know. And that's part of it because I don't feel comfortable. But with Toastmasters, I felt more confident. I realized that I actually had something that I had to say that was of value. And I did not know that about myself until I started speaking and sharing pieces of information about me. So I discovered my voice through Toastmasters. And once I discovered my voice, I realized I could use my voice to do other things. And I connected the leadership aspect of that to being able to have an influence and being able to do more with that. The second I learned was I am a doer. And if Debbie is here, she'll probably like, yes, you're the doer. I like to do things. I'm very detailed oriented. I do things and it's just a habit. My son and I used to tie his shoes just because I could just do it. But what I realized in Toastmasters was when you're in leadership positions, it's not about doing the job. You have the skills, but it's about empowering and allowing others to do it. And so as I moved up, so to speak, in the different leadership roles, I discovered that my role as a leader, I still feel a little uncomfortable using that word, but as you go into leadership positions, you realize that you can use your voice. You use your communication skills to be able to empower others to do something that you may have done it, but you're not in that role. So I have been able to learn that through my Toastmasters experience because of that. And then the third that I've learned is that, and the last point is that, as Chuck mentioned, there's no failure in Toastmasters. This is the best experience in taking all these leadership roles and all the learning opportunities to be able to develop your skills and experience that you can use in your personal and professional life.
Absolutely.
I have had a change in my career, and as a result of the pandemic. I have a career in nonprofit work, but that job and that role over like 20 years in being in a nonprofit had to change because my job, the nonprofit I worked for, folded because of the pandemic. So while being a Toastmaster, to say that if it had not been for Toastmasters, I would have freaked out because I would go, what do I do? But I realized that now with my skills, I've got a very ready-made skill set to be able to do other things and to branch out. And being in this role as a district director is equivalent to, they say, a CEO. Now, I've never had a CEO. I've never been a CEO. Okay, I've been an employee and been managed by a CEO. But because of that, and because of the things I've discovered, I can tell you, now the consulting business that I started doing after I lost my job, I'm now using that as a way to jumpstart my own business. And I would never have ever considered that before Toastmasters. As a club growth director, I learned some marketing skills. As a program quality director, I learned things about training. I learned about organization. And now in my role as district director, one of the things we learned in district leader training is that a district director is a coxswain. A coxswain is someone who's on this boat with all the people and everyone that are part of the team who have different roles, who are rowing. And the role of the coxswain is to manage and to support that. And that's what I'm doing in my role. And that's equivalent to being, the head of an organization, of a CEO. So I'm relishing in this role because not only do I get to do something I love, but I also get to learn and develop my skills that I'm going to further and use in my own business and whatever life has to offer me. But 6 years ago, I would have told you I would have freaked out. But because of Toastmasters and the support and guidance that I continue to have, I feel much, much better. And I have Toastmasters to thank for that. So that's my story.
Yes, that was great, Clarice. Thank you so much for stepping right up to the plate like any great Toastmaster leader would do. I now like to open it up for questions. Oh, I see that I have a question. Thanks, Robert. The question to Vanessa is, when you were assigned to be the face of Nellis Air Force Base, how did you overcome speaking to high-ranking officers? That was actually very easy. Here's what I know that most people don't know about being an active duty Air Force member. Yes, it's all about leadership. And yes, rank has its privileges. When you get to be a certain rank, I was a master sergeant before I was a captain. Master sergeant is at the top tier of the enlisted forces. A captain is at the bottom tier of the officer forces. So as a captain, when I had to speak to higher ranking officers, I knew what their pecking order was, and I spoke to them accordingly. It's actually called validation, and we all need to be validated. And here's another little secret about the military. If you are a colonel, which is a full bird, is what we call them, and you are trying to become a general officer, which means you have stars instead of bars and wings, then you are probably going to be fighting any which way that you can to get that star. Because once you have a star, the sky's the limit. That's why being a colonel is the most precarious position that you could ever be in the military. And here's what I learned about the officership of leaders. Once you have arrived and you've gotten your first star, then your job looks a little bit different. And it is about taking care of your people. And that's all that it's about. And you do that the best way that you can. And it comes from how you speak and lead people. How you speak to and lead people, those go hand in hand. And that's starting with general officers, 1 star to 4. And it ends at the very lowest ranking officer or airman that there is. And it goes beyond the Air Force. It's every military equivalent that you're in. That's where my leadership experience started. And it started with talking to people who were out of my social arena. And I got very comfortable talking to them first, which made it easier for me to talk to others. And that's my answer, for real. I'm still a part of speaking to leadership, especially high-ranking leadership, but I'm now doing it as more of a Toastmaster than as a civilian. And if it hadn't been for my leadership role in Toastmasters, I wouldn't be doing it as well as I'm doing it today. So thank you very much, Robert, for that question. Next question. It's from Mark Vandekamp, and it is to everyone on the panel. May a club coach or a district officer appear virtually with the club via Zoom or Teams, or are in-person visits mandatory? What can he anticipate in either role? May a club coach or a district officer appear virtually with the club via Zoom or Teams, or is a in-person visit mandatory? Panel?
They can appear virtually and take care of everything because very few clubs are meeting in person. So their duties they can do virtually. There's no requirement to be in person if the club or the group is meeting virtually.
Thank you,
Um,
Jack.
Toastmaster Vanessa, I'd like to add that even before COVID-19, when I was a division director and area director, when I served in those roles, we allowed our club coaches and our area directors to meet with us virtually on the telephone, teleconference. We call them up and put them on the speakerphone and they participated in the meeting. You can be just as effective virtually as you can in person. And we proved that even before COVID came about. So when COVID did come about and they allowed us to do that virtually, I was so happy. Because most of you know Edwards Air Force Base is a remote base and it takes miles and hours to get there. And our leadership was thrilled that they were able to meet with us virtually. So yes, virtual attendance can be effective. Just have all of your projects and all of the things you want to say planned and express that to the group, and they will appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laquita. Mark has another question, and it's for the panel again. Why wouldn't you join Toastmasters? This is a membership pitch. Why wouldn't you join Toastmasters? Can you elaborate on that as you give that pitch to a prospective member? Why wouldn't you join Toastmasters? Debbie?
Excuse me, I had to unmute myself. I would say, why wouldn't I join? This comes from someone who was kicking and screaming all the way down the aisle to the ink on the paper. And it took me a long time to join. And then I found it was probably the best thing that I ever did. It was wonderful. And in a group environment, it is such a safe place to stretch your wings and learn how to do things. Even as you step up into leadership roles, it's a safe way in a small group environment to practice. No matter where you go, in a group setting, you need to lead with an agenda. You need to have a purpose for your meeting, and you need to have structure to your meeting. And you can learn all of those things just by attending a Toastmasters meeting and walking through the different sections of the meeting and following an agenda. You can take very simple things and translate them to on-the-job training for executives, for managers, for regular just staff persons. There is so many skills that are so pertinent to the job force that you can learn and practice in a small team environment. That my answer to that question would be, why wouldn't you? It is so valuable.
Thank you, Debbie. We also have another question for you from Brittany Brim. How long have you been a leader in Toastmasters, and how many clubs are you currently attending? Debbie?
Thank you for that question. I currently am a member of one club, the Samaritan Village Toastmasters, and serving as president of my one club. And I would tell you that the reason I don't belong to multiple clubs is that I have switched jobs about 3 years ago since I was in Toastmasters leadership, and my job is really demanding. And it's difficult for me to participate at the level that I am today as a Toastmaster, is difficult for me to participate all in several, divide my time to several different clubs, because I don't want to do something halfway. And currently I'm very involved in my club. I love the club that I belong to. I love the level of speakers that are in the club and the way that we are trying to grow and meet and merge several groups of people. It happened to start at a Samaritan Village is a home for elderly people, if that's at several levels of care. So assisted living, all the way from living in an apartment to the different levels as they age. And it gives some of the residents an opportunity to share their experience with someone they're so lonely. And then we have executives from other companies, nonprofit and other companies that have also joined us at different levels of their career. And there is so much to be learned from all these different people from different sectors of society. And I'm enjoying it, thoroughly enjoying it, and loving every minute. And so I hope that answers your question. I serve in one club. I have served in a number of offices within the club. And although I've never been the sergeant at arms.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Debbie. Our next question is posed to everyone, but I think I'll ask it of Joseph Skoda. What is this red carpet event, and can you explain?
Well, sure. Red carpet event is going to be similar to our superhero event for our conference that we had in May. Well, this is the fall conference. We no longer have fall conferences, so our district will call it the Hall of Fame, where we're going to recognize everyone we didn't already recognize. We had a lot of early bird incentives in our term a few months ago. Well, early birds usually ended in February, March, April. Well, now we're figuring out we're going to recognize everyone who achieved accomplishments all the way to June 30th. We're going to bring you up on stage and be hybrid. So you can meet us in Morrow Bay, the inn at Morrow Bay in person, or you can easily meet us via Zoom, and all the information's in the chat box. Thank you. It's going to be fun. We really, really hope you will join us. Thank you.
Our next question goes to the panel, and it is from Robert Ortiz. The question is, have you found yourself speaking with the influence of Toastmasters on a day-to-day basis and in public versus speaking the Toastmaster way in a club meeting?
I would be glad to fill that one briefly.
Thank you, Greg.
As an educator, the answer is yes. One story about that, about a year and a half after I joined Toastmasters, I had a couple of coworkers come up to me one day at my old school in Farmersville, where I used to work, and they say, "You speak so melodiously and you're not always loud anymore, and you don't say ums and ahs. What is it?" And they would ask me several different things that I've improved in, and they almost started rolling their eyes at me because it was the same answer, was Toastmasters. So yes, how I present in a meeting has greatly influenced how I present myself as a teacher and the general public. Also, a little joke that some of my friends and I in Division G have is that when we go and hear other people's presentations, we start to count them. In fact, when my wife and I were dating, we went to one of her daughter's music concerts, and the teacher, who's normally confident in front of the kids, did like 25 ums in 2.5 minutes, and I started counting like this on my fingers, and she whacked me. She goes, "Stop it, Greg, stop counting them." Because I became more cognizant not only of my own filler words, but of those around me. So yes, how I speak in Toastmasters has greatly affected how I present myself in daily conversations and in my job.
Toastmaster Vanessa, may I add to that a bit?
Absolutely.
After the international convention, some of us saw the world champion of public speaking presentations. And I had friends to look at that, you know, who were not Toastmasters, and they said, does everybody talk like that? And what they were referring to was the animation of the speakers, the professionalism that they have in these Zoom conferences, and the tone. Everything that we learn in Toastmasters, these wonderful speakers have perfected. So what I've learned over the years is there is a way that we present to our Toastmasters group, which is more animated, more lively, more enthusiastic. We try to get their attention and inspire. But when I go back to the office and I brief my leadership, or I brief commanders, or I brief even my team, I tone that down. When I used to teach at a university, it was a completely different approach. So you have to learn, and you do learn in Toastmasters, how to know your audience, to tone down the way you present to different audiences. And that's the beauty of Toastmasters. And we even have projects in Pathways that train you how to do that. Great question.
Thank you, Laquita. There's another question regarding projects and pathways. What are the level 5 projects that you would recommend for an area director or division director? Panel?
I would, oh, here.
Thank you, Clarice.
One is to speak with the area and division director. One is a speech contest, helping to coordinate that at the area level and division level. That's often a common level 5 project, but there are others, and I would recommend checking with your area director or your division director to see what other needs that they have within the area or the division that one could configure and create a level 5 project. There's plenty, but usually speech contests are some of the common ones.
One of my area directors did that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Deb. Go ahead, Debbie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to add a little something there for projects. My Toastmasters leadership was always tied to my accountability goals at work. And so I tailored my projects toward that end because I wanted it to be appropriate for me in my career building as well. And so on my one project, I designed a niche for an audit niche for our firm to take on a role in the marketplace. And my high performance leadership project was to do a SWOT analysis and different things, and then write up this. It ended up to be a write-up of a several page book, almost, so to speak. And I tailored it toward my career goals. And then I ended up leading the niche for several years at the firm. I designed stories for the website that were pertinent to giving our clients information about the audits that we served. It happened to be for 401k audits. And I served as the leader, the go-to person in our firm regarding those type of audits. And it wasn't as simple as designing a club event or a speech contest at the district level, but it doesn't mean I didn't do one of those that translated into something bigger. So I wouldn't overlook it as an opportunity, just as Clarice said, to build yourself. And it serves a purpose. It serves a dual purpose. It, on many levels, it helps you with your organization skills. But my coaching to you would be to make it count. Don't just do it to check the boxes. Do it to learn something, to grasp a hold of it. I've always grabbed a hold of my Toastmasters experience with a big thought. Like I wanted to encompass things I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I didn't want to just check a box. And so my thought to you would be, do it, reach out, make it big, make it count, make it the best event ever, and make people talk about it forever. And then write it up as your project, and it means something to you and you've grown from it. And then it could even help you in your career when you take on something bigger that really matters to you, that's not practice. Toastmasters, like we have said earlier, is a great place to practice. Then when you take it on for something that matters at work, that's not a tap, tap, no erases type of event. It's for, you're on the stage and you're supposed to perform. You have practiced this a number of times and you know how to put together an event. You know how to put together a plan and make it work and execute it. It can lead you to something bigger.
Thank you, Debbie. I like that. Make it big, make it count, and make your pathways be a template for other projects.
Correct.
Joel, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
My question is, I've been involved in leadership at a club level, but now with Zoom, I'm involved with multiple clubs. Two clubs in District 33, one club in Florida, and one club in Thailand. So how Lakita mentioned that you could take leadership positions through virtually, even pre Zoom. But I haven't jumped into the leadership track. Is it possible to really do leadership without physically being in California? You're muted, Vanessa.
Yeah, take that on, panel, especially Laquita. I say yes, it is, but let's hear from you.
I agree, but Toastmaster Vanessa, yes, it is possible, especially now in this environment, and it's encouraged. So as I said, before COVID, when I was in district leadership as area director and division director, we encouraged our leaders to join us over teleconference. And so they were prepared to go through the agenda that they needed to get information from us in order for them to do their jobs. And we were able to interact even over the teleconference, telephone media. So as long as you develop that plan for this multimedia environment, you can lead, from a distance or remotely. Of course, you want to get the permission of your district leadership and let them know what you're doing, but it is possible. And I encourage it thoroughly. You say Florida, you're a member of a club in Florida.
Yeah.
If they want you to serve as an officer, if you're a member, that can be done. It's just a matter of you planning on how you're going to interact with that club on a remote level. So yes, I encourage it. It has worked for us, and I highly recommend it.
I have something to add too, Laquita. Our international board of directors for Toastmasters International has accomplished this way before COVID. It's a panel that serves with members from all over the world. And the time zones are, as you know, very different in Thailand than they are here. And our international board of directors meet by Zoom call, by telephone conferencing before Zoom was popular. They meet, and I've heard at very odd hours, to be able to accomplish what they need to do. They do that at a high level, and they manage an international corporation that is Toastmasters on that level, using medium that we have, that we are just now beginning to explore and utilize for the last couple of years, right down to the club level. But I believe that leadership is possible. You have to familiarize yourself with whatever you're going to use to make sure you keep in touch. I completely agree with Laquita. Of course, she's a technology expert and I'm not. So I would decide how I was going to do it. I would get permission and get people behind you, and then make sure you're really good at your Zoom medium, if that's what you're choosing to work through, or whatever platform you're using. I would make sure I'm really good, because as a leader, everybody's looking to you for leadership. So make sure, however you're presenting yourself, you're doing a first-class job, and then you will be that much more effective.
Thank you, Debbie. Clarice?
Yes, I wanted to address Joel's question as well, and mention it. Yes, it is possible. I will tell you that at least 2 of our area directors in District 33 this year are area directors that are out of the area, and they are managing as area directors those clubs remotely. So it is definitely possible. I would first familiarize yourself with the responsibilities of the district role of area, just using an example as an area director. And if you, once you understand that and you commit to it, and you get you're upfront with the district director, because that's the district director is the one who appoints those positions for the area director, then it is possible. So it is. So there is a rule. You don't want to serve in, you belong to clubs in different districts. If that is something that you want to do, you should select the district that you would like to serve, say as an area director. Don't try to do 2 districts, okay? Because that's like multiple roles. But you need to decide which one are you going to commit to in that district leader role. So.
Thank you, Clarice.
Sure.
Greg?
I currently have one of my area directors serve as a president of a bilingual club in Mexico. Area G1 director Andy Alas began attending a bilingual club in Mexico City back in the early stages of COVID, and he was asked to be the president, and I went to his induction, and he is doing a very capable job of being the Area G1 director while being a club president. Now, he's only a member of 2 clubs, Oakhurst and in the club that he is in Mexico, but it is entirely possible to do it internationally, because with Zoom, it doesn't matter the distance. You're online, whether it's next door or across the Pacific Ocean.
Thank you for that insight, Greg. We have a couple more questions that are resting in the chat box, and I'd like them to be asked. One is, has anyone ever done any youth leadership programs? What's your experience doing that? Youth leadership experience from the panel, anybody?
Yes, this is Laquita again. That was one of my loves for youth leadership. I truly believe in youth leadership programs, because with youth leadership programs, you plant those seeds in young minds about Toastmasters that they may not take on right now. Of course, sometimes they're too young or they're too busy with their schoolwork or academics, but later on, as when they become an adult and go to college or their jobs, they will remember that experience in youth leadership. And they'll come back to Toastmasters and develop their skills or share their experiences, etc. So I conducted youth leaderships in Lancaster, California, and on the base at Edwards Air Force Base at the Teen Center. They were so inspiring to the people who helped me and myself as the chair, because we saw young people who were shy like we used to be, or have not learned to hide it. And they did not want to participate. And it was our job to bring out those skills in these youth who were participating. So that was the challenging part, the fulfilling part. It was wonderful to see. So again, at the Teen Center at Edwards, I did that for about 3 years. And every year I keep myself open for it when we get out of this COVID situation. And I also did a Girl Scouts group. That's a great place to, Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, any of those youth, 4-H is good as well. You can start youth leaderships with those already established youth agencies. And they are more than welcome, believe me. The leaders there are more than welcome to bring you into their group to conduct those training sessions. And we did about a month's work of presentation skills, briefing, leadership. We had them get up and speak. We had them do table topics and evaluate each other. It was so new to them, but they enjoyed it. The best thing about youth leadership is that we feed them. And when you bring that pizza in or the cookies, they get so excited and they're willing to work with you. So that's the key to youth leaderships. Make sure you feed them at some point, either before, I recommend after, so they'll stay, but at some point in the meeting, give them food. Thank you.
Thank you, Laquita. Everybody likes free food. Craig, you have a question?
Actually, I have something to add to what Toastmaster Dukes just said. I'm a member of Sound Barriers, just like she is, on Edwards Air Force Base. And I have to say that the year that I assisted or helped with the leadership group was one of the most exciting summers I spent. Seeing those young people grow, and it was just, I developed skills that I didn't know I had, where, like, as Toastmaster Duke said, they would sit there and they weren't excited about, they didn't want to speak. And so you had to learn how to bring it out of them. And that, I just had to add that. Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you for adding. Our last question goes to Chuck, but I would like to address it to the entire panel. And it's from Brittany Brim. Have you ever spoken outside of the Toastmaster arena, including speech contest? Chuck, we'll start with you.
All right. I am a member of the National Speakers Association. I got involved with them about 7 years ago because I was doing professional speaking and did not know there was an association for speakers. So I have done a lot of presentations outside of Toastmasters. I've done Toastmaster club, division, district, area level contests. Never got past district, so you know, I'll put that as a wish list item next time. But no, I do more speaking outside of Toastmasters than I do inside Toastmasters. Inside Toastmasters, I'm able to practice. I can practice an opening, a closing, a story. You know, I can practice any part of a speech that I'm going to be giving to another group and get good feedback from the Toastmasters club members. So the answer is yes, I have in both cases.
Thank you, Chuck. I'd like to pose that question to the rest of the panel members. I'll even start with myself. Yes, I have. I do so every day, and Toastmasters makes me better at it. I give briefings every day to civilians, contractors, Department of the Air Force military members and guardians, from your basic airmen to, yes, generals. So I have to be on my P's and Q's when it comes to every word out of my mouth. And Toastmaster just makes me better at it. Next.
I'll take it. I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Greg.
Actually, no, I'll let Clarice take it. I'm sorry. I'll let our Madam District Director take
No,
it.
no, you go ahead, Greg. You were first.
Oh, thank you. Well, before I joined leadership in Toastmasters, I was actually in several speech contests, and I have placed second in 5 different contests within Division G. I also use my public speaking skills, talking to parents, administrators, students, and coworkers all the time. And I was steered towards the leadership. And at first I was resistant because I wanted to be in the international finals for the World Championships of Public Speaking. That was my goal for a while. And when I didn't get to go to district, it was really frustrating, but God has a way of doing what God does.
Thank you so much, Greg. Clarice?
Yes, I have been in a speech contest. I placed first place in the international speech contest at the area level. And that was within my first year of being a Toastmaster. I have not been able to participate in a speech contest because I've been serving in district leader roles ever since. But who knows, maybe in a couple of years I might get back into that. And yes, I do speak outside of the clubs. As part of my consulting business, I have to prepare presentations based on what the client needs. And so Toastmasters has actually helped me to be able to put a presentation together and deliver it. I've done trainings and do trainings for nonprofits. So that is something that I've been able to do as a result of Toastmasters. And I do use some of my clubs as the practice and training ground, so to speak, to test out some presentations that I get to do.
Thank you, Clarice.
I have some similar opportunities as Clarice. I do training. I have done trainings at work to our management team, presentations to customers and clients regarding the status of their 401k accounts after I have audited them, things that they could improve to make their plans that they are sponsoring for their employees better. And sometimes that's not always a comfortable conversation to have to deliver to a company, but it's so necessary when everyone's depending on that for their income once they do retire. So I've had opportunities such as that to practice my Toastmasters experience, which has been so helpful, as well as teaching at the university level. I can see myself walking all over the classroom, circling things on the board and calling on people and being very animated about the topics that I'm passionate about. And I could never have done that without Toastmasters. Good question.
Great answer. Laquita, any final thoughts on speaking outside of the Toastmaster arena?
Yes, my greatest experience was speaking for the Federal Corrections Group in Victorville, California. There's a whole prison system down there that I was not aware of, but I was invited to come to speak. And my topic was for Women's History Month. I didn't know if I was going to be speaking to the prisoners or if I was going to be speaking to the staff. So I came prepared for both. And it was for the staff. So I had the people who looked after the prisoners in that room, and there were about 50 of them. And I was speaking on women's history. So I expressed to them that it was important to appreciate all people who are on your staff and how they were brought up and their experiences, and to appreciate the history that women have and challenges that women have in order to get to the positions they're at in this room, in that room. The women so appreciated me. And afterwards, after I finished, I was told that, you know, I inspired them. Even the men who were the most dominant in that room, the majority, they said, we will treat our female guards a little better now because of how you spoke to us. But that's so important, to share your experiences as a person, as a woman, and or if you're not a woman, you know, your experiences. But when you share your experiences with others, people from other cultures or genders appreciate that, and they see your perspective and learn from it. So that was my greatest experience outside of Toastmasters, speaking for a federal prison system.
Great, Laquita. I hope you got paid. We'll end and wrap up with you, Joseph. I know for a fact that you've had an opportunity to speak outside of Toastmasters and with pay. You want to tell us about it?
Sure. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I appreciate all you've done, many of you have touched my life so much in the past several years, of course. Laquita, we were division directors together. Debbie, you're the first one that inspired me to even jump into leadership. I don't know if you realize that or not. And Greg, me and you've been working pretty hard the last couple of years. And Chuck always calls me a stud muffin. I don't know what that's all about. But what's so important is we develop a confidence, a certain kind of confidence. Even if we're introverts, like Debbie said, even if we're introverts, someone is watching us. And if we're called upon, we can step up our game and step up whenever needed. And that's so important to know that. And it's worked for me very well. And before the pandemic, I was doing trainings and presentations all up and down the state. And I was getting paid pretty good money. In fact, one company in Santa Maria that fired me 10 years earlier, where I was making $30 an hour, was paying me $150 an hour to do training for them. It's crazy how the world ends up and what we're all seeing out there. So it's so important that we get out there and look for any opportunity that we can lead. In a few months from now, we're going to be looking for new division directors and area directors to step up and learn something new and develop different skills that maybe they're rusty or maybe you still haven't developed them yet. And it's so important that we do so. And like Debbie said, you're in a safe environment. This is where we come to practice, not just speaking, but leading and being part of the trio team. Trust me, we went round and round several times through while I was going up the ranks, and it's okay because it's a practice ground. We're going to make mistakes, but we're going to become bigger. We're going to become better, and people are really going to appreciate what we're doing. So take this seriously, not just our communication skills, which is extremely important. Take the leadership skills to the utmost level that you can. You won't regret it. And like I said, don't do it just to check a box. Practice what you preach. Learn something new each and every time you get up and say something. Have I spoken outside of my club? Several times. I've given keynote speeches, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes long, all over the place. Sometimes I get paid, sometimes I don't. That doesn't matter. It's part of our growth. And you'll never totally grow until you step up into a leadership role. I was a Toastmaster less than 1 year, and I was selected to be the next VP of the club. And 1 month later, our president bowed out, and I'm being the president. I haven't even been a Toastmaster year, and I'm the president. Guess what? Due to everyone's help for me, president's distinguished. I didn't know what I was doing. I was afraid. I was ready to quit. But because you all know we support one another, become just a little bit better, it's all worth it. I encourage you to reach out to me, anyone on the team, and I put in the chat box where to register for our upcoming events, because quite frankly, you know Toastmasters rock. I look forward to seeing you at our Hall of Fame, and more importantly, discover for yourself what more you can get out of Toastmasters. Have yourself a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This will be up on our website, hopefully the next couple days. Have a great day, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Good
Thank
night,
you
you
so much.
guys.
Thank you, panel. There's a lot of kudos and thank yous in the chat box if you didn't get the opportunity to read them. And I thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night. Great
night.
meeting you
Night.
Night,
guys.
everyone.
Ooh,
Bye-bye.
ooh, ooh.